This is Rob Ryder speaking out of West Cornwall. So I'd like to do, I haven't done a video for a while because I haven't really had much to say. This may be the last video I do unless something new happens. There's one video I've wanted to do for a while, which is a visual video with coins regarding my other video, Money Creation on Steroids, which is this $75 trillion money printing fraud that nobody seems to understand. So that might be a video I can do if I can get somebody to help me on that, but we'll see about that. But at the moment, I think there's more than enough information out there regarding what's going on in the world. I don't think the world needs my 2 pennies worth. I think what I've done with the videos that I've done is quite specific, and I've broken stuff down, things that I think people aren't talking about, or in my opinion haven't quite got it right, especially the monetary system, which are broken down there for free. And again, human health, because of my work with Patrick for years, he's gone on to the next level. So I don't think anyone's talking about it in the way that we are, but I think we've done that, to be honest, and I'm not interested in trying to create a channel of all different aspects of our life and enslavement. I think there's enough people doing that, good people, so there's no need for me to be part of that. I wanted to just do one little chat about this little book that I helped create with Patrick, The Universe and I, My Role in the Unfolding Energies of Life. So what does that even title mean? The universe and I. Well, we live in a universe and we have this I that we believe we are, and people you get to an age in life where you think, what the bloody hell is this all about? Why is the world like it is? Not the what, but why is it like it is? And why do we call it unfolding energies? Well, everything's really run by cause and effect. Everything. And you have the 2 forces of creation, the expansion and contraction, and that can create temperature, high or low, but basically you can just reduce it down to expansion and contraction forces. And in the non-dimensional state, where this, like, you'd have to go back to the talks we did with Patrick, where this seed potentially is coming to form, so it's a seed of a universe that we've spoken about. It can only hold its form for so long before the tension and the pressure gives way and it comes out. And it's no different than an acorn underground, which has all this pattern of information in the seed fixed. And within the seed is the potential for an oak tree, but it needs to be released, so it's released, so it gets stimulated, it gets warmth, moisture, and then it bursts open. But it's nothing random. It's all pre-programmed, if you like, and it will only manifest and go into stages as an oak tree. It will never be anything else. It can't be. It can only be within the boundaries of that information that's in the seed and fulfill its potential via that seed. Now, obviously, it depends on the environment and other factors, how that full potential is fulfilled, if it even gets to that point. But it can only develop within the boundaries of what information is in that seed. It's the same about all creation. And what Patrick's saying, that's how the universe was created. So there's information that came together that created the seed, and it was contracted, and then it had no opportunity to burst open. People call that the Big Bang. But it wasn't a random, violent explosion of just random stuff happening. This was the release of what people call a pattern, sacred geometry, a pattern that is now unfolding. It has a very specific way it's going. It can't go any other way. The acorn can only go on the path to be an oak tree, and the universe a lot more diverse, obviously, because within the universe is the acorn and lots of other stuff. But it's developing on a path that it was, should we say, programmed to do. It can't do any more than it's doing, and it can't go beyond the boundaries of what it's doing. And it's simple cause and effect. And you can say about, well, why did it want to do it? Where did that? Was there a desire to do it? Well, that's an unanswerable question, but you don't need to go there. You know, where it's pure cause and effect. Tension becomes too much. It has, you know, the acorn, once the environment's right, it has no option. It hasn't got a desire to become an oak tree. It has no option up to become an oak tree. So we don't have to go beyond the realms of science and start creating imaginary gods, because we don't need to do that. Now, that doesn't mean to say there isn't a superhuman being God that exists. I can't disprove this God. I'm just saying there's no evidence for it, and we don't actually need to explain how a universe could come into being. You don't need a super being God to explain that. It's just simple physics. So the universe is unfolding, and it's developing via cause and effect. And what Patrick and myself are saying, that atoms, molecules, stars, suns, this is all energy fields that we perceive as physical things. But again, it's just cause and effect, interactions of energies, pure cause and effect. There are some people who believe that atoms, molecules, suns are conscious. I don't believe that. I think it can be explained by cause and effect. And then what do you actually mean by consciousness? And then people will mix the word, well, they're aware. Okay, but what do you mean by awareness? And in the book, you know, I asked Patrick, can you define these? Because they seem to be intertwined and used, and nobody really defining what they mean. What do you mean by awareness? What do you mean by consciousness? So the universe is run by cause and effect. Then up to the point where we get first what we call the living cell. And that living cell, you could say, is the first point of what we are calling awareness. It hasn't got a conscious awareness like we have. It's an awareness of itself being an individual thing from the universe, and the external world is the universe. Whereas before the living cell, it's just interchanges of energy fields. Energy fields can contract and create things like molecules, suns, stars, whatever. But here we have a living cell that is now an individual entity within the universe, because it receives information and processes that information on the basis of it sustaining itself. And we know that cells can be drawn towards things, nutrition, should we say, and they can be repelled by what they would perceive as toxic, or feel as toxic. So that's what we're calling awareness, but there's no conscious awareness yet. So you have pure cause and effect, awareness that comes out of the living cell based on its, again, need to survive, want to survive, desire to survive. But these are things that can be explained by cause and effect of sacred geometry unfolding it, because there's no other way it could be. It doesn't have to be an actual, what we would call a human desire. And then things have developed, and as cells have come together and create multicellular organisms, they become more aware of the environment. Yeah, and then more complicated, etc. And when we get to mammals, and we see kind of what we say emotions, a glimpse of consciousness, should we say, in mammals. And then we come to human beings, and we are not only incredibly aware, because our nervous system and our complicated brain, we can take on lots of information, but that has now allowed consciousness to open up because of all this complex sensory system that we've got in brain. So we're not just aware, we're consciously aware. Yeah, we're conscious of ourselves being an individual being within a bigger environment. Yeah, not just aware of it, as in the case of a cell, we're consciously aware of our being. And you could say the cell, this awareness the cell has, is the beginning of the creation of an unconscious mind. And as Patrick talks in the book, we have the unconscious mind as a human being and the conscious mind. Conscious mind is a tiny, tiny percentage of the whole mind. And what is the mind? Well, it's an energy field of information, of learned patterns that create learned responses, and they're all based on survival. So even our lives are driven by cause and effect. Even us as conscious beings, we're driven by cause and effect, because our responses to life of the information coming in via awareness, they're all done via the unconscious mind. I'm not sitting here consciously now thinking of every word and consciously creating out that, they're just coming out of me. They're just coming out of me. So it seems the conscious mind is aware of a tiniest percentage of what's actually around us. Our lives are driven by the unconscious mind because we're responding to millions of things all the time without even knowing. Our body, how it moves itself around, how it regulates itself, that's all done unconsciously. So these are patterns. And again, the information comes in, it's read, should we say, it's given a meaning by the unconscious mind, and the response happens. Cause and effect. It's a more advanced, should we say, method of cause and effect. So it seems the whole universe is driven by cause and effect. And this is what's driving the universe forward, because when we talk about evolution, and people get triggered by that word because of Darwin, should we say, because it's random, it's just genetic flukes, whatever, just molecules have come together and it was all random. Well, if there was a seed of the universe, and Patrick's right, and the pattern there is sacred geometry unfolding, and nothing's random. Nothing at all is random. Everything's happening via cause and effect, how it should be happening. And the human being is at least as we know on this planet, the universe is so vast, how could we possibly know much more than where we are? We have become conscious of creation. Now, you could say it's how creation becomes conscious of itself, which implies kind of a desire. But it doesn't have to be, again, a human desire. It could be just that was the pattern in the seed, and becoming conscious was just inevitable, because the information as it's unfolding made becoming conscious inevitable. So again, you don't need a superhuman being God. That doesn't state that there is or there isn't. Now, you can't disprove something you've got no evidence for. You can just say there's no evidence for it, but you can show that you don't need an exterior, shall we say, super being God to explain processes of cause and effect. So we come to the disaster, or perceived disaster, which is the human world. So I always state you have the natural world, which is the map of the world, which is the mountains, the jungles, the deserts, the seas, with natural laws of cause and effect. And you have the political map of the world. Every country will have a different laws, depending on what their belief system is, who's ruling, etc. Some rules may be beneficial, some rules may be detrimental to human beings. And that's all came out of conscious mind of human beings. Yeah, so and that's why I believe all these happen in stages. And if you look at an individual human being, and you go back to Patrick's talk on the stages of life, there's a stage which, if you're my age, we've all been through it. You become a teenager, you think your parents don't know anything, you think you know more than they do because the world's changed, and then you get to your 20s or whatever, and you go out in the world and you do everything what you think is right. You don't listen to your parents and you think you know it all. And then if you look at, you get to 35, 40, 45, 50, whatever, and you realize you knew nothing, and your parents probably, because of their experience, were giving you good advice. And I believe this is where we are as a species. And I believe that's kind of symbolic in the Garden of Eden of Adam and Eve turning away from nature. You can say God. What I'm saying is they turned away from their nature because the conscious mind was developing, and it's at the stage humanity where we're at this teenage stage and we think we know better than our parent, and our parent is nature. And we're doing it our way. But look at the consequences of doing it your way. Look at the consequences of teenagers when they go out and do crazy things. They have consequences and they go, oh, I wish I listened to my mum like that. This is where we are as a species now. And my opinion, like Mark Passio, and I agree with him, morality is built in to creation. But then what do you even mean by morality? Well, it's living in balance with the nature that created you. Now, as human beings, because of our conscious mind and our imagination, we can choose. We can sit down, start and make conscious decisions to choose paths of life that go with or without. Now you have a collective human morality, a collective human pattern of where we're supposed to follow, and then as individuals we can do things. So when we're talking about morality, we're not talking about specific behavior in a religious, dogmatic kind of Ten Commandment kind of way. What I'm talking about morality is what people talk about under common law: cause no harm or loss. My pattern that created me, that was unfolding, is unique. Yeah, there is a human pattern, the human energy field, but this individual seeds that we've all came from, that we're on our own unfolding individual path. Because it's individual, who am I to tell anybody else how to behave? Yeah, because I don't know what their path is. I can't judge their behavior. So the only way this would work is manifest in society. What we would say morality is kind of English common law, is do no harm, cause no loss. Because then you respect each other's paths. If two people, football hooligans, should we say, want to beat the crap out of each other, what's it got to do with them? You know, don't do it in public with children around, because you could cause harm, emotional. But, you know, if two grown men, tipsy travellers, want to meet around the warehouses and have a straightener, go for it. Beat the crap out of it. Who cares? That's their life path. That's what they want to do. It's not immoral. You're judging the behaviour. No. It becomes immoral when you're imposing on somebody else. So this goes to even more controversy for religious people: homosexuality. How can that be immoral if it's two consenting adults choosing that behaviour? It's not for me to judge at all. As long as it's not being imposed on somebody else, it can't be immoral. We can't be judging these behaviours as long as they're not imposed on everybody else. The immorality clearly happens when you're imposing something on somebody else. Now, you could consent to a behaviour, whether then nature, your individual nature, the collective human nature, the pattern that's unfolding, whether that's, should we say, in balance with where nature wants to go, you'll get feedback. It's called cause and effect. When you do something that's damaging you deep down, the effect is pain. When you're going on your life path and you're doing a behavior that is on your life path, should we say morally correct, then the effect is peace. So rather than people blaming everybody else for their pain because of their own life choices. Maybe they're on their own life path. Maybe that behavior has been deemed immoral by nature. Now, I know gay people who live together in long-term relationships seem to be quite content with their relationship. So how can I on earth say that's immoral? Nothing to do with me. And yet there are other people who are in heterosexual relationships, who are in bad relationships. So cause and effect is also part of morality, in that look at the effects of your behavior, take responsibility. Now, unless you're a victim, a genuine victim, where somebody's immorality has come into your life and caused you harm or loss, which can happen, especially in this world. But generally what I'm talking about here is your own behavior that you're doing, consensual behavior. Look at the effects of it. Yeah, just look at the effects and observe the effects. And if it's not good for your life, pain, suffering, just think, well, am I involved in that? I'm making the wrong decision, instead of blaming somebody else. Cause and effect is the feedback loop from our behavior, and we need to get in touch with that. And again, it's not a dogmatic list of behaviors. You shall do this, you shan't do that. Try it and see. As long as it's consensual, try it and see. Nothing to do with me. And so we need to get back into this understanding of cause and effect. And when you go from the individual to the greater picture now of society, and how there's no freedom in society now, and I've done it in I did a graph based on Mark Passio, connection between freedom and morality. So the more morality in society, in the collective, because it's a collective experience, we do not create our own reality. We co-create a collective reality. We perceive our own individual version of reality, but there is an objective reality. We're not creating that reality out there. We're perceiving it in our own individual way. So we have society now. Nobody's free. Everyone's suffering. Everyone's going through pain, and we're constantly blaming them, which is fair enough, because there is a parasitic class of oppressors who are coming into our world to oppress us. Okay, but parasites feed off the weak, they don't feed off the strong. So we have to then bring it back to us. Why are we allowing this? Now, you could talk about religious mind control, oppression, ignorance, but in this age now, I think there's masses of information out now to how the world is run. I don't think there's any. I think generally, if people are ignorant, it's because they just can't get their head around it, or they're choosing to be ignorant now, which I think most people are choosing to be ignorant. If you just say to people, "Oh, the system's run by crooks," the rich never suffer, blah blah blah, they all agree with you, but then they just get on with their life. So the cause is the oppression coming in from the system. The effect, I don't care. Well, you're going to get more then. You can't escape that. That's cause and effect. It's built into reality. If you're consenting and allowing all this oppression, it ain't going to go away. It's not how it works. So we are creating the effect. We are creating the effect of slavery. They're offering us slavery and oppression. We're consenting to it. We're the effect of it. And that effect, in a way, is also the cause. Because how does a parasite, again, it leeches off weak. So our weakness could actually also, the effect, which is our weakness, could also be the cause of all this oppression. So we need to look at ourselves seriously as individuals. If you think, apart from being a genuine victim, that aside, but when you're struggling in life and you're suffering, look at your own perceptions, your own behavior. You know, what role are you playing in your own suffering? Are you in balance with your own life path? Not what your stupid conscious mind thinks should be the life path. Yeah. what not what your conscious mind imagines who you are. You got all the spiritual people, or you can be whoever you want to be. No, you can't. An acorn can only be an oak tree. Can't be a birch tree. Simple as that. All creation's created the same way. I cannot be someone I'm not. So my job in life is to find out my own individual potential, real potential. Yeah. Not that I want to be a 6'4" heavyweight boxing champion of the world. Well, I'm only 5'9". It ain't going to happen. Delusional. Yeah. I can only be the best version of me. Yeah, you can use your imagination and go for things. If they don't quite work out, then maybe that isn't the real you. Yeah, it's like the oak trying to be the birch tree. It's not going to happen. You can only be your real self, and you find that out by a cause and effect. When life starts to become more peaceful on an individual level, then you're on your own life path. If it's painful and you're not, like I say, clear victim, but if it's painful because of your decision making, you need to look at your own life path. And collectively, with society, we need to ask this cause of oppression, what is our effect to it? How are we responding to all this oppression? Well, ignorance and apathy is just going to create more oppression. That's just how it works. And maybe it's built into the system, cause and effect, because the universe wants to go somewhere. It wants to go somewhere with humanity. If we didn't have the oppression, maybe that wouldn't instigate us, give us a spark to actually do something about us and free ourselves. And we free ourselves by becoming empowered and fulfilling our potential, which is what we're supposed to do anyway, because it's built in the seed. So you can look at the oppression as negative, or you can look at it a bit like a homeopathic remedy where you're given a little bit of what they're suffering. I've said before, if I wanted to stimulate humanity into an awakening, I think some sort of oppression, fascism, communism, whatever, some sort of oppression was the best way to do it, because you're compressing humanity. And again, comes down to what Patrick says. It's all about contraction and expansion. We're trying to grow, we're trying to expand as in individuals and as a race, as a species, but we're being contracted by this illusionary system that creates a pressure. Can only go so far before the whole system breaks down completely or it responds. It's no different than an illness. It either crushes you completely or you respond because you need to break out. This is what maybe the cause and effect we're seeing now in this particular moment is all about. But it can only be that way. It can't be any other way. So we can sit down and we can complain. You could admit that the world's gone by crooks and I'll work an extra few hours overtime to pay me bills. And now you've got men and women together trying to raise a family, never see the kids, both working full time. Then they'll be working Sundays. Then they'll be working overtime on top of the Sundays just to pay the rent or the mortgage or the energy bill or whatever, rather than face what's in front of them. Can only go one way: the complete destruction of the system, or the system responds and breaks out. And because we're all different human beings, they're going to be different. This system will crush people and is crushing people, but there's some people breaking out and saying, no, I'm going to find my way through this, and hopefully collectively, eventually, could be a long, long time, we'll blow this parasite off us because of our own internal response to the oppression. Because we want to be that great oak tree. That's how it works. There's no other way it can work. And that's why this might be, like I said, I want to do this money video if I can get someone to help me film it. Unless something new comes along, I don't think I'll be doing any more videos unless it's something new. Because that's how it is. There's lots of information out there with decent people doing lots of videos on the details of what's going on and the manipulation. But ultimately, it comes down to cause and effect. Why is your life painful? What role are you playing in it? What are you going to do about it? Yeah? Are you going to be crushed? Are you going to break free? Simple as that.